Good morning, Charlie. Good morning, Lauren. Today we're here to get Goodtime Charlie's side of this story from when it started to now and what it looks like in his life and how this has impacted not just him, but everybody surrounding him. So if everybody doesn't know, up in the corner up here is Lauren, the advocate. And obviously we've got Goodtime Charlie, who is at the center of controversy that he doesn't want to be at and has been since the beginning of February.
February this started, yes.
And for everybody that is just seeing this interview for the first time, a creator named Stacia Randall, who is Stacia Weird on TikTok, who has 900 and some thousand followers, or at the time, falsely accused Charlie very publicly and also to authorities of indecent conversations with a minor, a charge that could ruin a man's life and potentially get him unalived by somebody who wants to protect children. So let's start at the beginning, Charlie. What was your first interaction with Stacia? Not in person, like how did you come to know her?
It would be in the spring of last year via my content. I would go live quite often. My lives usually consisted of, playing music. And I would also like character act out a lot of my lives. Back in the day, I would present one of my characters in the lives. And that's how we began interacting. And she stressed that she had been commenting on videos and such. And I really don't look at comments and stuff like that as much as people might think. So even though she was a large creator, I wasn't noticing that she was essentially trying to get my attention.
Okay.
Interesting.
And then eventually did. And we started corresponding through DMs because at this time I have roughly, maybe 15,000 followers or something. My account by no means insanely popular, but has almost that, I'm going to use this word, it's quite ironic, but that cultish following, that niche following, almost that hipster thing like I saw him first. So although not a huge account, a very dedicated account. And if you look at like my following and my ratios and stuff, you'll just notice that, there's a lot of interaction going on for somebody that doesn't have such a large number following.
Yeah. I have noticed that your followers, they go looking for your content. Like, what is Charlie up to today? And since coming across your account, I literally go looking for your content because I'm very fascinated by what you do.
That's, not to like, steer away from the topic, but it is a very big deal to me that people are aware that I didn't come on this app as an influencer, as an advocate. I didn't come on this app as the person you are seeing and speaking to right now. I came on this app essentially using it in a manner that nobody else does. I put guidelines and restrictions from day one because I do have a background in marketing, organic growth, and I am well aware of the content that I provide, is not something for the masses. I was forced now to come on this app and talk from, my person, which, I just really wanted to be an artist and bring something different to an app that I saw a lot of people, it's just, it's just, I wanted to bring something unique and different. That's all. And I feel like I think I was, made me an easier target, essentially.
And if we could also kind of like describe your content, I guess what I see from an objective point of view, and I'm curious to hear how you would describe it, but you just kind of seem like a wholesome dude who's running his farm, living this very simple life, enjoying music, trying to enjoy your animals. And I think that you kind of put out a kind of life is simple, life is good, like, let's just enjoy the simple parts of life vibe. I don't know. What do you get from it, Tammy?
I mean, I see that side of it, but because I've been in the artist community, I see Charley's content as literally what it is. It is art. There is thought behind it. If you are not necessarily in the art community and you don't look at it from that perspective, you don't see that, even though a lot of people will see it as just a music video, there's very much a story behind what he's saying in every single video. And there's very much some thought and planning going into it getting a message, and it may get a different message to different people, but it's definitely art.
Anyone who's followed me forever will tell you that my content is nothing but subliminal messaging. Yeah. And the point is that I don't go out there and tell people what I'm trying for them to hear and see from me through this visual, because then, you know, I'm going to be judged for what I'm making. You know, the idea behind what I'm doing is emotion, is to create an emotion. Now, whether somebody sees what I create as negative or positive or whatever emotion they get from it, I notice that it's different from everyone. You know what I mean? I always say that, you know, I talk about politics, religion, a ton of things without saying a word.
Yeah.
And that's the point behind that. And to touch on the Dadvocate, you know, you're seeing also, you know, that wholesome content, because I divide these things through my, you would call it daily living content. You know, my almost get ready with me is a version of me preparing the farm or closing the farm for the day. And in between that, you'll get videos that are definitely more geared towards a topic, whether it is politics, love, hate, desire, all of these things, a taboo subject. People know in the beginning, you know, my bio was deviant artist, and deviant in the sense of wholesome. You know, there is a balance between deviance and wholesome, good and evil. These are things that I stress all the time. Destruction, creation. You know, I'm a big believer in the balance of life and acknowledging that. Okay. I'm somebody that has positivity tattooed on my arm.
Mm-hmm.
I lived a very positive life in my 20s and stuff, maybe too positive. You know, I don't think I recognized the balance of good and bad and evil. And I think that weighed my judgment. It also gave me a bit of an ego. But, you know, to touch on the content, it is unique and different. And as I've said to everybody, you know, I don't stitch much. I don't duet much. I don't do voiceovers. Essentially, I saw this app and I said, geez, all these songs, like, how come nobody's like just making MTV all over again? Create music videos and then put like sketch comedy in between it, and then like messed up commercials. Like, I've got commercials for Neutrogena that I've made, like they're my own, you know, that Neutrogena's chimed in on, because of course, like, it's nothing they're gonna want anything to do with, but it's uniquely funny. You know, I have a weird mind. That is something that anybody that knows me will say. I'm gonna let a dog in real quick. You could hear that. Okay. I apologize. Is you know, we've got animals everywhere. Come on, little one.
We definitely got the dogs today.
Yeah.
Yeah. My mother, who doesn't necessarily live on the farm here, she's on vacation, and I've got her dog as well. So
nice. Look at that, helping mom out.
So you've got Stacia in DMs, and you're getting to know her. Were you getting to know her just as like a friend, did you see this moving into a relationship, just as a fellow content creator? What was happening there? Okay,
so the early stages of my content, all right, are coming from the point of view of a middle-aged man who is single, who came out of relationships, and clearly stated throughout all of my content stuff that I had no intentions of getting back into relations for a while. I actually took a full year of abstinence. I did that for my own mental health. I did that because, you know, I had learned that, you know, I had jumped into things, and this just, things happened in my life where I knew that had to be made. Okay. So when I'm making content in these earlier times, it is more, I'd say, geared towards like some sort of thirst trappish in this weird music video way. There's a lot of like, you know, I would call it sexually charged content.
Okay.
Now keep in mind, when I used to make this content and stuff like that, you know, I was very blatant about, like, you know, I always pay attention to guidelines. When I say deviant, I'm saying, like, you know, a middle-aged guy with his shirt off. Okay, that is looked at differently than, say, you know, somebody that's a female that's 40 years old, you know, booty shaking.
Yep.
You know, it's not really accepted as much as a middle-aged man to express themselves, not only, you know, emotionally, sexually, and mental health wise. It really does go across the board. That is something that I have learned. You know, yeah. So to kind of wrap that up, you know, these conversations very quickly, I knew where they were going. You know, they were conversations that went right into, you know, adult conversations.
Okay.
Filled with pictures, you know, everything.
Okay.
You know, and again, I'm just gonna state this, you know, consensually, you know, consensual conversations. Again, this is a huge thing for me, is that I made a ton of content about men, you know, creating boundaries and respect and all these things. I mean, I was known for these things. I had a whole series called the I Love You So Much series that was geared towards, you know, all sorts of things delivered in this messed up, like, love bombish beginning. Okay. Only to have that twisted and manipulated into me now being a unhinged, you know, I'm giving fake love and I'm love bombing people and this, that. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know any of you in real life. Like, how none of you know me in real. This is a content and character. If I had 1 million views or 1 million followers, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Everybody would know it's a character. It's obvious. So,
okay, I have a question, because this is interesting. When it comes to the love bombing, stuff like that, it seems as though, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems as though from what you've described so far, that Stacia was kind of the aggressor, the pursuer in the beginning, that she is the one who wanted your attention. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like from your DMs, it sounds as though she is the one who started pushing it. I'm assuming probably the first one to send pictures.
I say this with 110% yes. And I just want to state that I haven't shared, and obviously I have things going on that I won't, but I have saved every single message from day one. So if she wants to argue any of this, I have text messages that will be linked to phone numbers, to IP addresses as well, and we can just keep this going. Because when I started my account and my content, keep in mind, this is from the point of view that somebody that has an OnlyFans account that as a male was in the top 10% before this happened. I save every message. And that was used against me. That got turned into, oh, he shares this or that. No. I was a middle-aged man. I got 20 to 50 DMs a day. I got unsolicited news left and right. I got all sorts of stuff. And I knew to save every message. And this goes for anybody that blocked me on Instagram. Understand, I hope they know that the message is still there. You know, you can block somebody all you want. The message is still there. Now their profile pic is gone. I did this as a protection angle, and thank God I did. So I will tell one thing to men out there, anybody that decides that they want to do any adult content. And keep in mind, when I say this, my content was just me and they were just photos. There's nobody else in my adult content. It's essentially Playgirl magazine. I create. I'm an artist again. I'm not, in a bathroom like some Chad. This was all used against me. Now, I got, somebody out there saying that I'm sharing messages and all this. And I'm like, I did this stuff to protect myself. And now it's being used against me. Like, but what if I didn't do that? It would have been worse. Such a double-edged sword.
Yeah, it's like when you go looking through their phone because you think they're cheating, and then you find out they're cheating, and they're like, but why did you go through my phone?
Oh,
Yeah.
I got a whole story on that. I'm not gonna get into that's for another day. But when I tell you that happened to me in such a big way, yeah, I literally came home, at one point in this is about 10 years ago, and there was a man in the house. And I just got gaslit all day over it, And then, prior to that, I checked, I saw messages, and, I'm the crazy one. It's like, so that's like another thing. This isn't like new for me. This depth, this seriousness, this is new for me. I had plenty of trauma and mental health issues before this happened.
So this is where we are now, is so she's, because some people who are listening, I'm sure, don't even know the full depth, which we're getting into. So she's messaging you. She's clearly getting some interest out of you. But I guess another question I have is, do you feel that there was a genuine chemistry, or do you feel that maybe she wanted attention more than anything?
I feel that there was a genuine chemistry. In the beginning stages, I enjoyed this person's company. They sold a great package. It looked beautiful. And that, the fact that I bought it and this happened, that really screws me up. I've spent my career in business and sales. I've traveled every state in this country. I have met every type. I grew up in the seedy belly underworld of biker culture. So I very much trust my judge of character. So to have this happen, to bring somebody into my home this way, into our family home, to have this happen, I question, I'm having real issues, with my instincts, which is what I have lived by. I just, I really did not see this one coming the way it did.
Well, I think you're far, far, far from the only one there too. I think she's kind of like the final boss of covert narcissists.
Well, she
I've watched.
She made sure that anybody from her past couldn't contact me, or she had built a narrative of all her exes and stuff before that they were such abusers. She really, if I'm being honest, which I very much so am, one of her exes would come into my lives and just spam it with gifts. And she said how this person abused her and all these things. Now, this person would send me like $30, $40, $50 in a live. Okay. And then my content starts getting flagged. And she tells me that this person has their team and, it's their ex, and all their communities coming after me. So I'm instantly believing, I got a whole community. I'm going to tell you right now, I know that this man was just trying to get a hold of me, and he knew money would be a good way to get my attention. All right.
Yeah.
But, she sent me after them. She showed me messages from them of what they said. And granted, some of them were probably true. But knowing who this person is now, knowing what she has done to people in the background, she pushes people to a limit and to a point that is going to force emotions out of you, in the worst of emotions, and then they're used against you. You can't look at somebody 20 times and say, listen, I need some space, I need some space. And when they're constantly on you, and then you say, fuck, leave me alone or something, which I'm going to say I never did. I'm giving an example. How are we, you can only handle so much. This person, you cannot tell them anything. They can't be taught anything. They won't learn anything. They don't want to work. They don't want to clean themselves. They don't want to do anything themselves. This is a middle-aged human, okay, adult, you know? I mean, you know, there's a point where you can't use your mental health as an excuse for everything. And you especially can't use it around me because I have mental health issues. I know this because I've worked very hard at addressing them and putting things in place and structures to make sure that I'm the best man I can be and that I don't make any mistakes of the men before me.
So we now know that we basically believe that she was the aggressor in your relationship. So how did it come to be that she ended up at the farm for the first time?
She was traveling to West Virginia, actually, to somebody that you know very well. That was
Ancient Queen's home?
You got it. That was having
Okay.
a child, and she was going there to be a whatever, where you assist in the birth of a child.
A doula.
Yeah. Yeah. I keep on wanting to say midwife. So, you know, she was coming from Nevada.
Okay.
And I am halfway. So it was the perfect opportunity for her to stop by and, you know, meet me, say hi or whatever. And that's exactly what happened. She had stopped by on the way there and also on the way back.
Okay.
And
each time that she came, did she stay with you for a day or two, or was it just like I'm stopping in and on my way?
the first day stayed for a day and then had to go there. And then on the way back stayed for, I think it was like a week or so, something like that. Because what she was in the middle of a divorce. And, you know, at this time I wasn't aware, okay, when she made her trip back to the farm from West Virginia, became aware, you know, again, sold the story, how she's losing her house, she's going to have nowhere to live, you know, yada, yada. Now, again, we've got 20 something acres. We've got, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 buildings. This time it's just me and my mother, who both of us are coming off the loss of my father, which that is something I'm going to drive home and stress, because that's why I'm here.
I did not realize going into this that you had lost your father right prior to all of this beginning, because you lost your father, was it in September of last year?
I lost my father it was December of, geez, what now is the end of COVID there.
Okay. So still fresh within
within
that first year. And I mean, I lost my father, and I know that 4 years later, I still struggle with it. So you're dealing with that grief. Your mother's dealing with that grief. And then in comes this person that is bringing, at the time, to you, knowing and bringing some significant positivity to your life and your life.
Yes.
Okay.
And you know, we are extremely vocal in this home with everything. You know, I help my mother out. You know, I'm not going to get into all that. My point is that, you know, we are vocal. We set boundaries. We express our emotions. We express issues or whatever is going on, because that's how things, you know, have to be done. To me, this is like a normal thing, but it is for so many families, you know what I mean? Just being extremely open. You know, if I'm having a bad day and I know that I am just on edge, you know, I'm letting my family know that, hey, today, you know, give me a little grace. You know, I got this going on. You know, we're all that vocal.
So she came the first time on her way. She came back on the way back, and then she stayed for a week, and she went on her way back to Vegas.
I went with her back to Vegas to
Okay.
pack up her house
Okay.
and get her
Wow.
stuff back here. And that was supposed to be 1 week.
Now,
I was
looking
supposed to be out
back,
there for 1 week.
She was
looking back
supposed
on this now, do you feel like maybe those were red flags?
I look back on it now and I can give you, I don't know, like a whole list of red flags. I you know, again, I'm at this point where, you know, I'm coming off the death of my dad. Okay. I've been honest about this and I have no issue expressing this. Before the death of my dad, I had relapsed. You know, I'm the quintessential story of a suburban kid that was in an accident many, many years ago and was handed too many prescription drugs. Now, I wasn't in rehabs and stuff or anything, but it was something that I addressed in my 20s. And in my later 30s, unfortunately, became an issue again. And that was right before the death of my dad. It went relapse, sobriety, death of dad, bury dad, find TikTok for therapy, meet Stacia, boom. I say this because, you know, it's a factor that needs to be put into this story. You know, to the impact of relapsing, especially somebody, for me, I beat myself up over this. Nobody came up to me and said, "You've got a problem." Nobody knew. I addressed this to everybody in my family. You know, I'm a very open and honest person, and it was killing me what I was doing. I saw the deterioration of myself again, but now I was seeing it at 40 years old, and I was worried that this was, again, that I was going to become lazy, lethargic. I was going to lose it all. You know, I had to address that. I had to tell my father, I tell these things, and then he got sick. You know, my father and I were best friends. I talked to this man every day. We played music together. He was a drummer and a multi-instrumentalist. I'm a well-known musician. When I had relapsed and stuff, I talked to him and we had a pretty heated conversation. It wasn't really good. And we said some really messed up things to each other. And then he got sick. Next time I saw him, he had tubes in his mouth. That's how my relationship ended with my father. This was the man who I love more than any man in the world. This is a man who I talk to every day. You know, we didn't argue. The fact that it ended like that is so, people might not understand, but it is so poetic. You know, they say to not, you know, leave the room or leave your loved ones, you know, with that anger or something like that, because you never know. And this is a guy who I said, "I love you" every time on the phone, him back. You know, our emotions and our love towards each other weren't hidden.
Yeah.
And to have it go down that way, you know, I had to carry that. And I still do. You know, it's one of the reasons I'm out here doing everything I can to make sure that the family farm is the best it could be and take care of stuff. But yeah, I'm not trying to rant or anything, but I need people to understand my mindset and where I'm at when this happened to me.
Yeah,
You
and
are
I think it's really, sorry, I think it's
Lauren.
important that you establish that, because you've already established that you've met gaslighters, you've met manipulators, you've dealt with liars. This is not new to you, but you were in a pretty, I would say, weakened state.
Yeah.
And one thing that we do know about gaslighters, narcissists, is that they can smell that from a mile away.
I've said this before, and this is why, you know, I never wanted to be an advocate. I'm not comfortable with it. All right. What has happened and the way this has gone down, especially with the young man inquisitor, and how I have been at this since February, that this has been a part of my life since February. Okay. I don't say this from an egotistical point of view that I'm stronger than or anything. Because of trauma I have caused myself and people have caused me, I had a certain set of tools, a certain set of trauma that gave me the skin and the shell to get through this without pulling the trigger. Because I don't think that many people can take what has happened to me, especially when you look at the precursor coming into it, and the depth of what happened and the longevity of time I was not listened to. You factor that in, you got to understand that, you know, I was alone here. There's nobody here on this farm in the winter months, and I have to document what is happening because I know the truth, okay? I know the truth, but nobody believes me, nobody listens to me. So all I can do is wake up every day and document what's going on. So I am forced to sit there and read every comment, every video. The anxiety of waking up every day knowing that people are saying these things, that this narrative is being pushed, but on top of it, I can't do anything about it. On top of it, nobody believes me. On top of it, if I want to pull through this, I have to read them. I have to copy them. I literally have to document. You know,
Yeah.
I say this from the point of view that if this is happening to somebody, especially if they've got a following or whatever's going on, okay, they need a team of people. You need a couple people that are willing to at least start documenting these things for you, because it's forcing the hand of the person and it makes the situation worse. You know, I had to document. I know every comment everybody ever said about me. I know it 3 times over. I don't like it's it's extremely difficult to document what's happening to you in real time. And I did it for over 6 months.
Yeah, we got to get there and get to how we even got there, because the people listening, they know Stacia came in. She's making moves on Charley. She's sinking her claws in. She's staying for a week right off the bat. She's getting you enlisted to come stick up to her evil ex and help her, the victim, out of her home. The claws have started sinking in. This is what would you say, summer, fall?
So we're you know, I will say I'm a bit of a talker and I got some trauma,
Oh,
so
that's okay.
I could just pop off any minute. But we were at essentially, you know, we're back in Vegas. We're packing up her place, and I'm a week in there. We're supposed to be there for a week. That turns into a month-long adventure.
Wow! Oh my God!
I was out there for a month. That like keep in mind, okay? And you know, I should have paid more attention, but I am somebody, and I stated this right off the bat. By no means am I like OCD crazy, but you know, I'm a guy that's a farmer. I got farm animals, and I put a squirt on of cologne every day because it makes me feel good. So I like things a little bit orderly. My clothes are hung up. I like things nice. Okay.
Man.
This person does not live that way. You know, I stated these things like I got to have things their way. So when I got to their house and saw, I should have been a little bit more aware, because this is like a mini McMansion and you'd think it was a trap house.
You know, that's one of the craziest things to me is when you meet rich people with no taste, no ability to use their wealth properly. It's one of the weirdest experiences, but it's very common.
People you know, people see this person on TV, the Travel Channel, and they've got a perception of them and how they are and this or that. You know, I'm blatantly weird and eccentric on TikTok and my content because of who I am in real life. You can't be that weird online and just be completely batshit crazy in real life. It's a balance, okay?
as I told you, Charlie, before I ever made a video about you, I dug in and watched all of your videos, all of your content, to watch the consistency, and also watch the turn where your content slowly started taking a much darker turn. And that was about the time that Stacia had come into your life. And I could see that from an outside perspective. But one of the things that I also did is I watched hours and hours of her content. And what I very much saw on the screen was this was a person that put together a very, very pretty image and put together this kind of like character of who she was in this perfection that she lived in, but she also had all these traumas that she was dealing with, and she was going to help other people walk through, in which she engaged her audience within that. But you very much in her content see that mask slip when she was having like an emotional struggle or having something where she wasn't in her defined space, and you could see the mess in the background. You could see the disaster in which she was living in. But anything that was planned content was in this perfectly clear space that looked like she lived in perfection. And I could very much see that without even knowing her and having never talked to anybody in this situation, I could see that there were two very different sides. And it was the person behind the screen and who she was on the screen. And I knew going into this that those were not the same person at all. There was no seeing that. And but it wasn't presented as if it was a character from her. It was presented as who she was on the screen was who she was in real life. So when you went to Vegas, you were going to help her pack up her house. At that point in time, was the intention for her to come back to the farm, or were you just there to help her?
No, it was decided, okay, upon her being here on her second trip, which is her trip back from West Virginia, that I would go out there, okay, that we are going to now provide a place for her to stay, okay, under some terms. You know, you got to help out with this, you got to pay here, you know what I mean? Basic things. Also, like, we're not in a relationship.
Okay, that was my question.
We're together. we're together, okay? We're not in a relationship. I mean, my Facebook status was open relationship. If I have to like go back into my metas here, I had people visit before. You know what I mean? It's. I know a lot of people don't like approve of that. Now, keep in mind, I'm not some like polygamist. I'm a dude who offered a place for somebody to live. Okay, and I had a sexual relationship with that person. Okay, and some other people at the time, and it was documented and well known. Okay. I'm not out here like with some Bible selling something on some cult leader farm. I'm just a single dude that didn't want to be in a relationship that offered a place to stay for someone.
There's nothing manipulative about that either. You clearly were both in your 30s to 40s at the time that you are saying, hey, we can do this, but we are not dating. I think that anybody who's trying to say that you manipulated this grown woman, no, you both consented to a perfectly adult relationship. It might not be for everybody, but you did nothing wrong.
But I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, she also had led you to believe that she was coming off of a very abusive domestic violence relationship and going to be homeless. So part of this decision to offer this place was that you were, in essence, helping out a victim that had no other resources or no place to go.
Yes.
And you discussed this not just with Stacia, my understanding is, but your mom was involved in this decision to have her come because your mother also lives on the farm.
At this time, 100%, this is a decision made with me and my mother and her, because at this time, you know, my mother lives on this farm. You know, our farm here, you know, the main house is set up in a way where you can think of the top and bottom being two in-laws, okay? There's a kitchen, bathroom, whole thing for each level, okay? That's how a lot of farmhouses are actually set up. It's not uncommon. You know, that's like something people, you know, seem to love to trash on me for, something like I'm living in my mother's basement, you know, when, you know, years before it was kind of like, this is what you did. You take care of your mother and father, you take over the land. my point being here is to make it better and build it for, my family. I expect, more family out here in the future.
Question. When you were in Vegas helping her, did you ever meet the ex-husband?
No, but I was in the house when he had to pick up stuff. Like I kept a distance, obviously. There's because they couldn't be near each other or anything.
Oh, was there like a PPO or something?
Yeah, their whole thing was like unreal. That man, he went through some stuff. I'm not going to speak on his story, but yeah.
It's one of the things that I think in getting Charley's interview out to people to understand is that coming on after this, Lauren, so you understand, is going to be a series of interviews because there's a backstory with multiple people that all feed into the how she ended up where in this situation, how he ended up here, that have been literally a path of destruction from one person to the next. And from my standpoint of looking at it as an outside individual, it escalates each time it gets a little bit worse. So now you're in Vegas, you've finished packing up, you've brought her back to the farm. What does that look like when you get back here? Like, I know you said you set clear boundaries, expectations, she pays rent, she does this, she does her part. How did that happen? And about when was that in the time frame?
Let's go with September. End of August, beginning of September.
Okay.
She's coming here with a car full of stuff. And I'm gonna actually talk about something that she made a video about. She came here with 3 cats. Okay.
Oh my God. This keeps getting so much crazier. I thought it was. Knowing it was crazy.
Now, when I'm out there, okay, this is literally the whole time I'm out there. She knows. First off, I'm allergic to. Okay, I don't have cats in my house. Okay, in my house, I don't have any cats. Okay, outside, yeah, you see cats all over in the video. I've got a farm. We have farm cats. It's like a normal thing. I know people don't understand that. That's why you always see me in gloves. That kicked off the whole thing. You see me touch them. You'll usually never see me touch an animal without gloves because it's a big deal for me. Literally it makes a huge difference. So we're packing up her car and I'm now told we're bringing 3 cats. Okay. 3 cats.
Was never mentioned the whole weeks and weeks leading up to
the whole weeks and weeks before. There's only 1 cat is coming here. Okay. And I express, okay, that I will allow the cat to stay in my workshop. Okay. I have separate from the house. I have a heated workshop. This is my workshop. This is my sanctuary. All my tools are there. Okay. I'm a tradesman. I am a huge Harley guy. This is my sanctuary. Okay. That cat ends up staying in there. Okay. And she doesn't pick up anything. I mean, I'm talking cat hair, feces, everything, to the point I can't work without I got to wear long sleeves. Okay. And I'm taking essentially my COVID thing and I'm putting it over my face to package items because I sell on eBay a lot. And that's all of the time I can spend in the shop. Otherwise, I got to take a shower. And it's becoming a huge issue. Now, when she left the farm and all this stuff went down and she's literally online talking, saying everything about me. Okay. I'm done and I need my space back. So the first thing I do is I go right out into my shop. I open up all the windows and doors, the garage door, and the cat shoots out. And I'm like, fucking, I ain't running after it because the cat has done this 4 times before and comes right back because that's what cats do. And that's where it gets its food and yada, yada. Okay. I'm having a private conversation with somebody, and that was shared online and taken in a video like I'm some fucking animal abuser, excuse my language. Okay. This is, unbelievable to somebody who has literally stitched up and saved the life of a cat that was attacked by an animal that I let stay in my shop. Now, that was under my control where I could take care of the animal and all this, but she inhabited my space so much that it actually became a medical issue. And when I tried to clean that area and make it, and I'm talking to a follower, okay, somebody that was close to me that she manipulated and turned on me, and then they go share all my private conversations and use them for videos and twist this narrative that I'm some animal abuser because I let the cat outside and I was fucking snarky about it when I did it. It's sickening to me, the depth and the gravity of what she's done and said as somebody who loves animals. It is pretty blatant in my content, my deep love for animals, because if I didn't have those animals throughout the darkness that I went through the past 6 months, I don't know what I would do. They were my reason for getting up. So sorry to rant on that, but that video really upsets me. And, it's something else that is out there. Okay. That is a false allegation. I'm a farmer and you're saying that I abuse animals. I've got a huge issue with that. And, my neighbors who know me best, they have an issue with that.
Well, and I think it needs to be noted that there's a pattern associated with these animals. She accused her ex-husband of abusing their animals. And then when she moved in after her stint in the mental health facility, when she moved in with Ancient Queen, she publicly accused Ancient Queen's husband of abusing their animals. So she has a pattern of accusing the people around her of abusing animals.
Can I clarify though? Okay, so she made this accusation about you letting the cat out as being like abusive, even though the cat came back. She made that accusation. The cat was with you after she left. So she abandoned her animals with you. She left them in your care without caring at all to find proper homes for them. But you're the bad guy?
Well, when because I want to be as transparent as possible. That's how I am. When she left this farm, all right, when she left to go get mental health help, it wasn't like she wasn't coming back here. There were no attacks prior to this. Everything was fine. She has a mental health breakdown. She has to go away. She goes to West Virginia. At this time, she's welcome back. Okay.
And I think it needs to be noted that the reason she ended up in West Virginia is Ancient Queen, who we'll hear about in a later video, is in behavioral health and had access to free resources in which she could get Stacia the help that she needed. But I think before we get to that point, we need to kind of discuss what happened on the farm that led to this happening, because there's also been accusations about this particular situation that Stacia was going through basically a mental health breakdown. And she will say that they left her unattended, laying frozen in a barn for hours and didn't help her where she almost died. And that's what she says. I've heard Charlie's side of the story, and I think he needs to tell that side of the story as to what actually occurred on that given day that apparently she was left to die, is what she will tell. And she will say that you willingly and knowingly did that. And I know that that's not the truth.
I had a planned visitor who is Spooky Boo. Mm-hmm. This was a much so planned visit. And this is something I really needed, because at this time, I'm months into Stacia living here, and it's weighing on me. She's, inept, not cleaning. She made videos, praising my mother for washing and combing her hair because she couldn't do any of that. After a few days of Spooky Boo being here, Stacia has this breakdown where I go out into my barn, and she's laying in one of the stalls with the dog. At this point, she's unresponsive. Okay. And I'm trying to do everything I can. Her eyes are open. She's looking at me or anything, but she's not communicating. You know, I'm doing anything I can at first. Okay. Understand. I'm trying to do visual movement to get a reaction, blinking or anything. Okay. I'm aware of mental health issues. I know what to do. Also, when somebody's laying like that, as somebody who spent their career in the motorcycle industry and active in sports, when somebody's in a position like that, I know well enough that I'm not going to move them. I don't know what's going on. So I just want to state that. You know, unresponsive, this and that. I legitimately, okay, am freaking out now, worried. So out of a legitimate, you know, gauging response, I'm like going, Stacia, are you all right? Okay. Now I don't scream. I'm not somebody that screams or something. I raised my voice wondering if this is going to get her. It gets nothing. I then go and I grab my mother, okay, who is a mandated reporter. She's a school teacher. She's just got a background that can help me know what to do. At this point, we call the authorities, and they come and they pick her up. If there were, you know, if we were abusive, if there was neglect, all of these things as which she has claimed, okay. Keep in mind, there were multiple cops on this farm when they picked her up. They brought her aside and asked her questions because that's what they do in this situation. I don't know what else I was supposed to do. We tended to her needs and called the authorities. I definitely wasn't going to pick her up and like lug her, you know, an acre or two up to thing. You know, she's also a 6 foot tall, you know, person. She's not like you know, 100 pounds. I just throw her over my shoulder.
She's not Lauren. Lauren's like
Yeah.
little.
5 feet tall over here.
You know, that's that story. I mean, I don't really know what else to say on that.
No, I think you've I
have a
wanted you to tell it from your perspective because
Yeah.
it's been put out there to multiple people, and
Well,
she
I
also told
don't-
it to me in DMs from very much that you knew she was in psychosis and you allowed her to leave and do what she wanted. And I'm like, you're a grown adult. Like,
So wait, I have a
Yeah.
question. So was psychosis the ultimate finding of what was occurring?
You know, after that happened, it all went downhill in a way that I don't know the true answers of what her diagnoses were or anything.
So like evidentiary finding, like do we have a report from that incident?
I mean, I'm sure I could get a police report. There's going to be one. The police know me well. I'm sure I could get my hands on it.
I'm sure I could contact the sheriff too. We've become good friends.
He's a good.
Good
I
buddies.
kind of have a question. I have a couple questions on like the before this psychosis incident and the after, because we know that what kind of led up to it was your friend Spooky visiting. Did you get kind of a feeling that Stacia was uncomfortable with Spooky's presence or jealous or something like that?
100% jealousy. So, you know, as stated earlier, I said I didn't want to be in a relationship, you know, all of these things. I had spent an immense amount of time communicating with Spooky Boot before I even met Stacia. We had a lot of time in communication. When I met her and we spent time together, I'm going to tell you right now, as somebody who's dated every type, I lived in New York City as a single man for many years. You know, I say every type in that I've been in areas where there's a blend of culture and ethnicity. When I met her, I knew right away that I never wanted to be with anyone else, that I had finally found somebody that knew the weird that I was, that understand my artistic brain, but also understood the structure of my lifestyle and mind.
I'm getting goosebumps.
I know that Stacia saw that. Stacia also saw us being intimate. And I know that was a huge factor, because there is no denying that when you see that. Again, I knew, and I still know, I say this 110% confidence, I will spend the remaining of my life with Spooky Boo. This is, people don't always understand that. I stated before, I took time off, abstinence, all these things. I had realized that as a 40-year-old man and stuff, that I was very much so somebody that let people come to me, and I was attracted to that people came to me, they liked me. I was a musician, a motorcycle, all these things, okay? I never searched for somebody that worked for me, that worked with me, a true partner. I just took what was easy, I guess. So, it was a big deal to me to make that realization and then find that person. So.
Can I chime in?
Yeah, hold on. She's walked up. Yeah.
Just hanging out in the background.
It's just them too.
Hi.
Hi, Spooky.
You had asked about if jealousy was a factor, and it's something that I absolutely picked up on just in my gut feeling, but that wasn't at all what was expressed vocally.
I was just about to ask about that.
Yeah, it was quite the opposite. She was all about compersion, where she's happy for her partner when they're able to be happy with somebody else.
She wrote a letter to you about it.
And she wrote a letter to me about how happy she was that I could be there for Charlie. And
we've got the letter still, by the way.
And beyond that too, any time that she witnessed any intimacy between me and him, it was not only very consensual, but enthusiastic participation. And then to just have that expressed, verbally and outwardly, and to get that mixed message of, okay, well, this is what they're saying, but I don't feel that in my gut, that it's really as cool as you're saying, and now look where it's gotten us. So I just wanted to kind of make that point as I'm kind of listening in the background, that all of this was supposed to be according to the boundaries that she agreed on.
Yeah, because I was about to ask, did you feel like you prepared her enough that it would potentially be an intimate relationship? Was she thrown off? But it seems like from every step of the way, you told Stacia, this is going to be open. I'm going to be with other people. I will not be committing myself fully to you. Someone is coming in. We are going to have our own relationship. And every step of the way, she seems to be telling you, yes, I'm 100% okay with this. I agree. I consent. I enthusiastically consent. I mean, she even used the word compersion, which I understand in the open or poly world, as Spooky described. That is the enthusiastic love and enjoyment of seeing your partner with someone else in that way. It's a pretty deep feeling, but it seems that Spooky has expressed, I'm sure you would as well, that it was kind of fake.
I don't believe that Stacia, she claims that somebody that doesn't mind poly relationships, all these things. I don't believe that one bit. I believe that I expressed that, and she knew that I wasn't going to have it. And that was my boundary. And if that was an issue, that I wasn't going to move forward with anything. And, at this point, this is somebody that's like, well, obviously I need this place to stay, so I'm going to go with all this.
I believe very much that she made one of the, what I would say, worst mistakes that women make as a whole is, I'm the one that can change him. So I'm going to tell him that I'm okay with this because I know how good of a woman I am, that I can change him. And instead of accepting the man that they're with for who he is and who he says they are, they put a label on who they want you to be and go into that knowing that their entire mission is to change that. And her world came crumbling down when she realized that you were not her person, or that she was not your person, and she was never going to change you to be her person. And that is my outside perspective on it. But that is the biggest mistake I see a lot of women make, is they want to change a man. So they'll accept a bad quality with the understanding that They are the person. Nobody else could fix him, but I can. Not that it needed to be fixed, but from her standpoint, it needed to be fixed.
It's sad to me because, you know, I've had a lot of relationships. There are so many times I could sit there and, you know, I was definitely not the best man I could be. I am here, I'm this open, I am the person I am today because of recognition of who I was before. You know, it's sad to me that she essentially, you know, got the best version of me. I really, you know, these days am the best version of me I could ever be. I'm so proud. It upsets me in the sense that I wish this version was given to some of my exes because they were deserving of it. You know, they took the brunt of why I'm the good man I am for Spooky Boot. You know, it's because of the man I was before, the faults I've made, both good and bad, recognition of that, making those changes, also combined with, you know, how I grew up and how my father was, and not being the same man as him in certain ways, but also being very much like him because, you know, he was a good man.
Yeah. Before I get into about following up the psychosis episode, I just wanted to kind of touch on, you know, going back to what Tammy was saying about how there's so many people who believe, oh, well, I can change him, I can fix him, I'll be different. I think, you know, I think that we've found a lot of narcissistic tendencies so far. And what it seems like to me, this is just purely speculation, in my opinion, but it feels to me that because she thinks so highly of herself, because she honestly believes like everyone will always see me as the best, I think that she really just thought that once Spooky actually got there, that Spooky would be the secondary one, that Spooky would bow to Stacia and Stacia would still be the number one. And I think that it was having to experience not just the fact that you like Spooky, but the fact that you really, really, more than anyone like her, was probably just, obviously, what I'm implying is that this was not a legitimate psychosis episode and that she needed the attention desperately.
Yeah. I often think, you know, this conversation was happening one way or another.
Well, and the other thing
what was going to happen? Like, was it going to be worse? Like, you know, I don't know. Like, I knew, you know, I was going to have to talk to Stacia about this. I didn't know this was going to happen. So in a way, I often wonder, you know, if she came back here from West Virginia, I don't know.
Yeah. So was it like canonical? Because it goes, police come, they take her away. It seems like to this day, the details are still muddy and unclear for you because we don't know what the ultimate diagnosis was for that day, what the medical professionals determined. But it was at that point that she went from there to a mental health facility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in West Virginia.
Yeah, and she signed over her medical or her mental health power of attorney to Ancient Queen.
Yep.
To have her committed, and she was committed for seven days.
Yeah, tell me a little bit more about who this A2 Queen character is.
Ancient.
Oh, sorry.
Ancient Queen. She's somebody that had also come into Stacia's content online, became friends with her, was a mod in her lives, had gone to Vegas and met her and been at events with her and just became friends to the point that Stacia went out to Ancient Queen's house to be her doula when she was having her baby. So very much formed a friendship with Ancient Queen, and Ancient Queen had access to these resources when Stacia was in a place where she wasn't bringing in a significant amount of income, didn't have health insurance, and didn't have access to the mental health help. And Ancient Queen said, I can get it for you and I can get you the help that you need, but you got to get to West Virginia. So Stacia drove across the country to West Virginia. She was there for 7 days in that facility. And then upon release, this is another part of the story that I think is very important. Online, Stacey presented that when she got out of the mental health hospital, she was basically left homeless and kicked out of Charley's property. And so she ended up on a couch. Now, Charley can tell you differently. And Ancient Queen will tell the same story. I've talked to both of them about this.
And she posted the story publicly?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she posted these videos of her in the mental health hospital and like the psychosis and what was going on. And then she posted a video where she's posting like her and Charley driving in the car, wind blowing, smiling, and then like kind of like a screeching type noise. And then it's her laying on a couch abandoned, like, and it says something on the screen about being abandoned or something and ending up on a friend's couch.
Yeah.
Like, so very much presenting to the world and her 900 and some thousand followers that this man that she was living with kicked her out in the middle of this and now she's homeless.
Okay, can I just say one thing before I forget? I just have to say this. There is no way in hell that all 900,000 of those followers are real. That bitch bought the grand majority of them.
I'm like nasty good at metrics and analytics and growth and things like this. I can break this down for you real quick.
Yeah.
Right? I'm a bit of a jerk about this stuff, so bear with me. You know, got 250,000 followers and you're only getting 1,000 views, all right? Yeah. And you've been making the same content for 3 years. I don't want to hear how TikTok's got you in the dark. What you got is she popped off on TikTok in the early days. This is when content creating and stuff, there's not a whole lot of content out there. You think of the early days of TikTok, everybody attributes it to people dancing. Kids dancing with videos, okay? So TikTok sees this as their opportunity, somebody that is providing different content, okay? They latch onto her and they're pushing her content in her lives because she's doing ghost hunting. This is before anybody else is doing ghost hunting or anything like that. She's got ties to the show Ghost Adventures and at this time is working at Zach Bagans' Haunted Museum in Vegas. So her content is pushed crazy, all right? All those followers are from the early years of TikTok. Now, that being said, what content has she provided in the past 2 years, right? Not anything ghost hunting. It's all this is this now she's a trash talking, you know, influencer, mental health, whatever you want to call it, okay?
It's absolute destruction. Content. She destroyed her ex-husband in a very similar way, and she destroyed any followers and any individuals that supported her ex-husband. I spoke with a woman and she provided me evidence, documentation, and proof that she merely made a comment on Stacia's ex-husband's video that she was sorry that he was going through this, in which Stacia proceeded to trash this woman on her content. She was bullied offline. And to this day, that at the time this happened, she had like 20-some thousand followers, I think I had seen. To this day, she has not made a single video on TikTok out of fear of what will happen to her if she did. So a cosplay content creator that happened to follow her ex-husband because he was doing haunted doll lives and haunted doll content. And then him and Stacia collected a haunted doll collection together that became part of her personality, Katie the Haunted Doll. These were dolls that her ex-husband and her purchased together, and it was his content prior to hers. Now, if you take this to when she moved to the farm with Charley, all of a sudden it became, this is, I mean, the videos on Travel Channel's website, this is life on a haunted farm. And she's showing a picture of Charley's father and talking about the other person that died on the property. And so all of a sudden, Charley's farm became a focus of her content. And it was this haunted farm and haunted animals and all of this. Her ex-husband's dolls that he did lives about prior to her doing these lives also became his content, her content. So yeah. I knew that this would send off like flags for Lauren.
You know,
so Charley, did you consent to your father being used in this way?
No. You know what I mean? Like,
Lauren, we have tagged,
You know
Fucking
what?
A.
have talked, we have called out the travel channel because this video of Stacia in his home showing his father still exists on their page. I simultaneously went into the 250 people that promoted Stacia in that video, like, and loved it, and just said, are you aware that Stacia falsely accused a man of grooming and a police report has cleared his name?
I
And
saw
let
your
every one of them know. I have tagged the travel channel. Hundreds of creators, or probably not, maybe not hundreds, have tagged the travel channel to say, hey, please take down this content. You do not have Charlie's permission to have it here. It's his property and his father.
What
And they have not responded in any way, shape, or form.
the ironic thing to all of this, okay? Now, I'm from Connecticut, so you want to talk about haunted stuff, I go all day about it. That being said, I'm not like into that stuff, all right? All right, just not into it, okay? This place is haunted, and it is very easily documented, and there's a very serious, well-documented story about a daughter and mother missing, and everybody in this town, a local area, believes they're on this land. All right, I didn't know about this story till I started talking about some things that were happening to me, and I start looking things up. I make connections, freaks me out. My point is that there's a legitimate, very serious story behind this land, and part of that story could actually be the closing factor for some families that might want closure to some missing people. And that is a really like serious story that would be not only great content, but it could be something really positive and beautiful, the outcome. And she knew that. She could have provided something, I think, that was serious and real. And in my opinion, a story so good and in depth that it could have got her back on TV.
Like these
So
details.
I think we
just-
also need to,
Oh,
before we kind of move
first.
forward, I think we also need to bring into the fact that in your time with Stacia, and one of your accounts on this app is the Cult King. And Lauren, if you haven't seen this content, it is basically Charlie, but portraying the character of an unhinged cult leader. And then the other side is he also plays the character of his brother who's trying to talk people out of joining the cult. When Stacia came forward with this in post after psychosis back at Ancient Queen's house, it was like, thank God I've escaped this cult. And she presented it to the world as if he was truly running a cult on his farm and that he was truly a cult leader. But if you watch the content, it was a art skit content, and it was not this, but she presented it to the world as if he were a cult leader, and she was roped in and manipulated into being part of the cult. And now she's escaping the cult and the mental health trauma that this cult has caused.
Oh my God.
It's literally in the police.
It's the worst when you make a clear, obvious, facetious joke and people take it. I've had, this happened to me on a very small scale. I remember one time I made a joke in a video where I said, you know what I always say, don't let your wife stop you from finding your wife. And it was, as the video goes on, it's a complete joke where I am making fun of the person who is married but also proposing to someone else, clearly making fun of them. And I've had that used against me. I've had women be like, well, Lauren's a misogynist because she said, don't let your wife stop you from finding your wife. And I'm like, oh my God, that was sarcasm.
Yeah. Imagine like, I don't even like, my whole basis of content is like some messed up skit comedy or music videos. It's not like there's a question of whether or not, okay? And this is the other thing that I just want to state. Before I started doing that content, all right, that content was bred for a few reasons. One, I have a deep knowledge and background in the Catholic religion. I'm from Connecticut. I went to Catholic schools all up through middle school. And I say this with confidence that I know that Bible better than most that go to church every Sunday. I live by a code of judgment free that I still keep, and I took from that Bible. That being said, I am not a fan of organized religion. And that was one of the reasons I bred that content. I don't hate religious people or something like that. I believe differently, and that's all. And I try to let people know that. Now, that being said, before I started that content, I reached out to 5 different cult survivors, cult advocates that are on TikTok. And I talked to them what they thought about the content, their perception, their views, you know what I mean? And every single one of them, all right, it was always the same response, that they were well aware of what I was doing. They were well aware of the way I'm presenting this. And what actually was impressive the most to me was that it was their favorite content that I made, because it was like their form of healing in a way, because I'm delivering it, again, deviance in a wholesome form. I've made this thing before. We now know a lot of things, unfortunately, about the Catholic religion that are very upsetting. There's no denying that. What is the difference between a cult and the Catholic religion at times? There's so much judgment to anybody that might believe differently. Now, again, there are all sorts of cults that are bad. Oh my God, 99.9% of them are. You know what I mean? But and I look at religion the same way, man. I love everyone. I don't care what anyone's doing, as long as they're good to their neighbors and their people next to them in the land. The land and animals, like, that is my religion. Like, that's where I find balance. I know if I'm doing good or bad by like I know it sounds weird, but like, I can't spend 5 days working in my shop. There's no balance. I have to spend 2 days in my shop, 2 days outside. I feel, I don't need to see. And then people think I'm crazy, I think, for saying that. But I've got it figured out. I know good and bad. I know how to be a good boy and a bad boy. I feel my dad. I don't see him.
So now we've gone through that. She's in West Virginia. She's gotten out of the mental institution. She had nowhere to go in West Virginia. And my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is there was conversations that she was welcome to come back to the farm, but you felt that she should stay there for a little bit because that's where the mental health resources were available to her for free, and she needed to continue to get that mental health help. It wasn't just release you from 7-day stint in the hospital and come home with no assistance or no mental health help.
Yeah, and it was the realization too, when she had left, it was a wave of emotion of realizing that a lot of, just issues I was having, okay, were her, somebody in my space not attributing, not cleaning, not showering, not, doing the things that we had talked about. And now we're several months into that. So I had, talked to Rock On and expressed, hey, is it okay? We work something out where she stays out there with you for a couple weeks, 2 weeks. I would have liked for a month or something. My big thing was I needed her to come back knowing that you can't come back here and not do anything. You can't, she wasn't even making content. If you look at her videos, from the timeline she gets to the farm to the first video she makes about me, do the numbers and add up all the videos created, and then look at what was created when she starts to go in on me to when I come back on the app with the receipts. She made more videos in the time she was gone and during her attacks with me than she did in like 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Did she ever pay rent?
With the Travel Channel, they're sponsoring her. They dropped her or whatever. Now it doesn't matter to me because they paid her during her attacks to me. You go to her content.
Yep.
What is she providing that has to do with the Travel Channel? Now, granted, 3 years ago she did, But the Travel Channel is so inept to who they are sponsoring. They are not paying attention. Their PR team is just so lacking that they paid her and tagged her in videos on her account and sent people to her account when all her content was trashing me. It's crazy.
I think it's important for people to kind of grasp that the attacks publicly on Charley begin right around February, end of February, beginning of March. The video that says "This is life on a haunted farm" that shows Charley's father and her clearly saying hello or good morning, Jim, to the photograph of Charley's father was posted by the Travel Channel on June 24th. So this is 4 months into her attacks, where all of her content was basically associated with surviving a cult, surviving abuse from Charley, and publicly accusing him of this grooming. And then yet his farm in a video appears on the page. So she gets to Ancient Queen's house, and that first video out was the "I'm living on the couch." And that's kind of where this all started. Lauren's raising her hand.
One question. Did she ever pay rent?
No.
And that was decided ahead of time that she would, correct?
He's
You
got-
said that, yeah.
Like, one of them people that like need to go buy things to feel good. And that was my issue. She's like buying like things like, okay, like you don't need to have, instead of like attributing. We had like a really good Christmas. This is before everything happened, because she got some money from her settlement of divorce. Bought me the Mac that I had been saving for. I was so happy, like $2,000 Mac. You know what I mean? So, in a way, it's like, trying to make up for not doing anything. Okay. Now, granted, I didn't need any of that. I was saving for, okay, whatever. Yeah, I would have preferred you just gave the money towards the mortgage or anything. Okay. But when this all went down and stuff, she took all that. Like, I didn't want any of it. I knew it would come back to me if anything stayed. So,
She bought him a bunch of clothes and then sold them afterwards.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
she took
Like,
the Mac.
she'll say she did things,
Mhm.
but she like bought clothes for me on Christmas as a gift and then took them back.
And
But
then
it's-
posted them publicly because she was homeless now and needed money to have a place to live and support herself. So she was selling the Christmas gifts that she had given to Charley.
Oh yeah, on her Depop, she made videos marketing, selling my ex's Christmas gifts or whatever. Again, trash content creator who can't create content. They turned me into their content.
And so she starts making this content, trashing your reputation. You're getting, I'm imagining, an immense amount of hate coming at you before she even came forward with the allegations of grooming.
Yep.
Like, coming from that account to your account size, there's not much you can do. People are listening and they're not going to take your side of the story. And then she posts a video where she finds out her ex had been with, and everybody's like, but publicly she said 17, but privately she said 15. And I think people that don't understand need to understand that Stacia has another ex that actually was arrested in regards to child P3DO, and I'll say that because this will end up on TikTok, charges. And it was with a 17-year-old. And she posts a video about that and says that she was sent a news article. At the same time, all of her content is about Charley. Everybody's making the assumption it's about Charley. Not only is everybody making that assumption, she used Cult King, Farm of Weird, Charley's hashtags in the thing of that video. Someone dug in and found her ex and posted the actual Las Vegas newspaper article about this ex-boyfriend and made sure people knew. Multiple people have come to me and said, they commented and said, you're talking about Nathan, which was the ex that was arrested, not Charley. And she was deleting all those comments. And at the same time, these text messages are starting to go out to accounts of Charley having this conversation with this girl. So people are believing this newspaper article about him being arrested is Charley, but it had nothing to do with him. And that's where this entire, and that's about the time that you said, I can't fight this battle, and just shut down your TikTok accounts and left. Like there's nothing I could do.
I'm trying to explain to people that this isn't even me. This news article is about. This narrative is created. And if do you still trust this person? Like, how is nobody seeing this? I'm screaming from the top of my lungs. The videos are still up.
Yeah, they are.
And then back with a burner, Shay in chains, and she used those comments to put me down. And if you read those comments, what does it say? Nobody can believe when a female abuses a man. Nobody's listening. Nobody. And those are back in April.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want to state this real quick. I used the name Shay in Chains because an old follower of mine, this unhinged, mentally unstable younger girl, she's like 20 or 21, 20, I don't know. When this stuff happened, she comments, and I have this all documented. She deleted everything, but her account was Shay in Chains, and she comments saying that she's safe now, and that the 17-year-old was her, and that I had relationships with her when I was in Florida, and all of this stuff. Now, I don't know who that girl is, but I made the connections on them being an old follower of mine, and I backlogged everything. And they have an account now. It's called Possum Jaw. It's on TikTok. But that person was a very big part of driving the narrative, because now you had more than one person, all right, backing this up. Now, I don't even know what this person did this for. I don't know what the reason for them to collude with her, okay? But that is what happened.
Adoration of Stacia. I completely and totally believe, and I've watched this and realized that a lot of the people involved, Stacia very much specifically targeted people with very tiny accounts that were hoping to grow bigger followings, and would bring them into her lives, would support their content, would do these things. But at the same time, there were rules, and everybody that I have spoken to in regards to this said that you very much knew, if you were in Stacia's inner circle, that you didn't go against her because she would destroy your life. So yeah. She's like, so everybody, even if we saw things that we didn't like, we were afraid. There was a fear factor because they were watching her destroy people publicly online consistently. And I will say that I've had, in the very first video that I posted before I had ever had a conversation with you, and I think it's important for people to hear this. Charley reached out and said, I'd like to talk to you, and said, can we do a face-to-face phone call? And his phone call wasn't, thank you for posting a video. Please hear my story. The very first conversation that we had, the very beginning of the conversation, was Charley expressing his concern for me about the amount of hate that may come my way because I'm putting this on my platform and what her followers may do. It wasn't a thank you and let's get my story out and let me plead my case. It was, do you know what you're getting yourself into? Do you know what she could potentially do to you? And I think that's really important, because to Charley, it was more important about protecting somebody that didn't know what they were getting involved in than it was having another voice to push his story forward. And that to me, the day we had that conversation, said so much about who you were and the character. But as you reached out to me, I received an inundation of messages from Instagram and TikTok from people saying, you know, this man runs a cult. You know that there's a 17-year-old girl that's in his comments. Like, people were like, that was in the comments saying that he did these things. Like, there's an actual real life victim. Like, you know that you're standing on behalf of an abuser. You know what you're doing. And Lauren, you will understand this. The only reason you're doing it is because you protect violent and dangerous men, because you're misogynistic and you advocate for men. And that was, but I cannot even keep track of the number of messages I received in the 48 hours following that first video being posted to convince me that I should not in any way, shape, or form address this again, which gave me all the more reason to address it.
Same. That I had the same experience before I even like all I did was comment on Charlie's video and say, hey, it looks like some folks have already got this covered, but I'm willing to help too. And as soon as I left that comment, I also started to receive dozens of messages from people who are like, Lauren, if you do this, you need to be prepared for her to try to get you back. And I had to sit down with my husband and I had to say, like, hey, I'm about to make this video. Get ready for a CPS home tour, because this is what I hear she's doing to people, is calling CPS on everybody. So if they want to come on through, just know that might happen.
So, and I think, so now she's making all these allegations publicly. We now know accessed your Instagram account, logged into it. The IP address shows that that's what happened. She's sending these messages out to family and friends. But I think people need to understand, and this came up in the police interview, that Stacia actually did not turn Charley into the police. Stacia very strategically made sure these messages went to your mother, who is a mandated reporter and required. So she put his own mother in the position to have to take this to the police as a mandated reporter, now having messages that prove that he was having, or that allegedly proved that he was having indecent conversations with a mother. He put her mother, or his mother, in the position to actually take it to the police. And Agent Queen is also a mandated reporter, and she gave her all of this information also and put her in a position to have to call the police. So Agent Queen is the one that had to call the police in Florida, because that is the location of this alleged 15-year-old, to let them know that, hey, there's a minor in your district that could potentially be being targeted by somebody as a man. So that opened up and launched investigations in Florida as well. And once these allegations were launched, one of the things that I want you to speak on, Charley, is where were you at from a mental health standpoint? Because I've spoken to people around you that said that they were, sorry, my whole screen just disappeared for a second. I've spoken to people around you that have said that were very concerned that you may not be in this world tomorrow. I know that there's people that has said that they called a mental health check on you, that they were very concerned as to whether Charley was going to be here today.
Yeah, I mean, I had the cops show up here. I'm a performance artist. I am very serious about what I do. I got to a point where I'm not being listened to. I got to a point where my local authorities, my family, the closest people to me, all believe this narrative, although I've never once exhibited any signs or traits that would lead you to think this of me. I'm also at this time, I'm done. And all I could think about is my family and my daughter, and that they have my last name and they carry my last name, and understand that this is coming from a point of view of, if you punched in my name, my TikTok name, Goodtime Charley, with that, under the search came my real name. That's how much I got put out there, that you literally put in my name in the search bar on TikTok, and like searches come up, and it included my real government name. And all I could think is that I need this story out to protect my daughter, should she decide to do anything in her life moving forward. She's young, got the last name, in my family. And I realize that the only way that this story is going to get pushed is for me to push it myself, because I knew the truth, and I knew that my family would investigate it heavily if I went black, if I shut the lights off, if I gave TikTok the final performance that I was very ready to give. And in that letter, I was going to make sure everybody knew that I didn't want to do that. See, I love life. I love my family and everything. I love them so much that I was willing to do that to ensure the legacy of my last name and my father's last name is saved, and the protection of my family and daughter are saved.
So I think it's important that everybody that would see this interview understands how disgusting that this situation was, because when this was occurring and this was happening, and as you can hear, Charlie's very concerned about his daughter and his family. His 9-year-old daughter, information, address, and everything about her became a topic went viral on a Reddit thread, and his daughter was outed. And you have not seen her.
Daughter.
Pardon?
Pictures of me holding my daughter, and anybody that knows me knows. They would always, they'd find out I have a daughter. They go, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I didn't know that." Exactly. Don't look at the content I make. I am not putting my daughter out there. Now, I had made 2 music videos with my daughter. She spends the summers with me and stuff. And in those music videos, you don't see her. Her back is turned to you. I don't show her face. The protection of my daughter has been something documented on my accounts from day one.
And so they put her information out there. And my understanding is that because of that, you have not been allowed to see your daughter because of concern for your safety. And is that correct?
No, Stacia sent these receipts to my daughter's mother. Now, this is my ex, who now at the time things were doing pretty well. We had a good relationship. But then I received phone calls from her screaming at me how she's contacting the police because, again, police support. So she's attributed to that police support. How if I contact my daughter, she's calling the police. Just screaming at me how I'll never see her again, how I'm a P3DO, all of these things. The trauma of getting that delivered at you. Now, on top of it, I have nothing but consistently had in my head the fact that I know there's conversations that whoever, I don't know, who's had with my daughter on what did daddy do to you? Now, 3 weeks ago, I talked to my daughter in a text message. We can get messages through to each other. I'm not going to talk about how or anything, but she sent me this and she asked how much she misses me, and she's sad that I choose not to be in her life.
This story's been used to alienate you.
I have contacted her mother and said, look at this police report, look at that. And all she did was gaslight me on how I haven't been taking care of my daughter and I'm not supporting them and this and that, when I'm not in any fucking mindset to do anything, because even her is sitting there still with a closed police report with everything I've got. She's calling me. And this is documented again in my text message 2 weeks ago, calling me a P3DO. I am messed up over this in a huge way. This is a woman who, my ex has domestic charges. I don't have a single one. So that's all I think I have to say. My daughter, my daughter, this, if you saw her, anybody that knows me in real life, this child is me. She loves art, music. She looks exactly like me, walk, talk. When I tell you, I've never gone this stretch of period, I came out here and left her to heal. Because the death of my father, everything that happened, I was messed up. I wasn't going to be a good father unless I fixed myself. And then I fixed myself, and then this happened. Things were really going to were great. And we had plans. We had all these things going on. And since February, I haven't seen my daughter. I barely talked to her. To be blunt, Stacia knew I had a planned trip in January to visit my daughter. When I was out in Florida, she and her mother got in their car because they were in West Virginia, or she's in Ohio. This is when she's out there with Rock On. And while I was in Florida, they showed up here to our farm when my mother was alone. And her mother showed up here, forced themselves into the door when my mother was here, looked at my mother and said that they, have every right to be here. And they spent 4 days in my basement packing up her things. It took her 4 days to get her things and pack them in a Toyota Corolla. That's a huge issue because people need to understand that she had 4 days of access to everything in my life, Social Security, all my passwords. This is again documented.
And I think it should be stated that I have proof from a few people that Stacia, not only when she forwarded out these text messages with this conversation that was fabricated with Charlie, with this 15-year-old girl, she forwarded his driver's license from Florida to multiple people. Yeah. So that they had a trail as to his history, driver's license number that would allow individuals to spread that information to further dig into his life and further continue the destruction.
So, okay, I have a question. Of course, I'm not trying to like blame your mother at all. She's just a sweet lady trying to live her life. But while this was going on, you're in Florida with your daughter, right? I'm assuming your mom was trying to like contact you. Did you advise her to call the police at all?
And she did and everything, yeah. But you got to understand that Stacia was here already. At this point, she'd been living with us for like 5 months or something, okay? She changed her driver's license to this address.
Oh, wow. So the police let her...
has a certain right to get her things. Now, she showed up here with her mother. I'm not going to get into it, but her mother spent some time in jail.
Mm-hmm.
For some real serious stuff. And it's got to do with what I would call some real serious anger issues. And it's quite humorous to me to find her mother in her comments laughing at me. Yeah. So my mother's safety was in jeopardy so much at the time. She had called her boyfriend to come up here, who is we'll say a farmer. He knows how to protect.
Now, and then the other thing that I think is that as this is going on and you're getting all of the hate and having to deal with the issues with your daughter, the concern for the safety of your mother, you are also getting an onslaught of threats to yourself and your safety and anybody around you, is my understanding.
Yep. I'm getting them sent to my phone. I'm also having people flat out, you got to understand, what I'm being accused of. Nobody is vouching for you. Nobody gives a crap. So when videos are being made about me on TikTok to just myself with cute voiceovers in a way that isn't going to get them in trouble, but it's pretty blatant. Okay. There's a lot of them videos that are deleted now. And, there's even some extremely large accounts that made videos about me that deleted them. And I expressed to those accounts how, I needed those videos deleted. And, you don't have to do anything else or anything. But I will tell you, I hope all of them are very well aware that I'm invested now. And as somebody with a staunch business background who, here's my ego, doesn't lose money, okay? I have so much emotional investment that I will be fighting for my truth to the utmost degree, which is going to force the hand of every video made about me by these large creators, 500,000, 1 million, 250,000 that made videos, colluded, and attributed to this. They will all become public knowledge due to a court case.
And then I think it also... I also think it's very important for people to bring in the aspect of, obviously we've heard about the jealousy that Stacia had for Spooky. And in the midst of this, an online hoax was created that Spooky had died. Oh, there were videos, there was a page created in memory of videos with her birth year and her 2023 death, the entire thing. And then when she was made aware of this and this was impacting her life, she kind of said, I'm here. There were a plethora of people blaming Charley for creating this hoax so that it would take the heat off of him and put it on her. And basically then blaming Charley for putting her at risk. And I've not heard the story, but that's my understanding from watching everything.
I'm going to take a bathroom break and I'm going to let her tell it. She overheard this. So I'm going to let her just give you the story from her mouth. I feel that's best. Here, you go ahead.
Can I ask one quick clarifying question? Because I know February is kind of when shit went down, but some accusations were clearly starting during the January time. So was February when the P3DO allegations began, and prior to that, it was mostly just he's just a bad guy, he's got a cult? Or because I'm just
the P3DO was March.
So yeah. I know the timeline is so hard to keep up with because it just keeps escalating and escalating. But the way that I would break it down, so my visit was end of January, and that's when I got that bad feeling in the pit of my stomach that I couldn't really place. And now I know why. But that's where all of this kicked off. End of January is when she had her trip to the hospital. In those couple of weeks in February is when she started to drag his name through the mud. But that's when that, accusation started out more subjective. She didn't get the responses she wanted. And it was, I want to say like middle of March was when the more serious allegations with her alleged receipts came out. And that was when she started to get more of that reaction that she wanted. So
the spooky hoax, the time that you died. Hold on, there's a really great Mark Twain quote I feel that applies to this, and it's, "The rumors of my death have been greatly exaggerated."
Oh yeah.
But this must have been between February and March.
No, actually, that was battery's dying here, so I'll get him a charger after I kind of walk you through this. But no, so that would have been end of April, actually. And my role in this, like, I know it's a lot of moving pieces to keep up with, but essentially, like, okay, so you have to remember that I kind of watched this kick off from like ground zero, and I watched the way that it escalated from February to mid-March. And the whole time things just weren't adding up for me for so many reasons. I'm like, I was here on this property. Now, I wasn't out in the barn when she had her psychosis. I didn't physically witness it, but I watched all these things happening around me. And the picture that she painted online never matched how this actually went down from my point of view. And when I watched it escalate and escalate, I wasn't on board with the things that she was saying. So now mid-March rolls around and these accusations against him are starting to get more and more serious. And I have personal friends of mine reaching out to me to see if I'm okay. They're like, "Have you seen the things that people are saying about him online?" And I'm like, yeah, but understand that I was here and this isn't what I witnessed. So if she's saying anything in regards to somebody who's underage, I'll believe it when I see it, because I've watched how this thing has escalated on all these baseless claims. So it was mid-March, mid to late March, that finally somebody who was kind of third party reached me, and they're like, "Stacia has screenshots." And it was at that point, I'm a pretty objective person. And so when somebody says there's screenshots, then for someone like me, of course, I'm going to listen. I'm at least going to hear it out at that point. So those got sent to my inbox, and I immediately freaked out. And, that's the way I describe it every time that I tell this part of the story, because who wouldn't? You read the contents of those messages, and it's alarming. Like, you're kind of blinded to everything else in your peripheral. And, I had to kind of like figure out, okay, well, what comes next for me? Because at that point, I had already started bringing some of my stuff down here. Like I had made more visits in between. And, maybe it was an impulsive kind of move, but I was planning this like, okay, sometimes when you meet the right person, you just know. And yeah, there's all these things happening in the background, but like this is my person. I want to be here for him. And my lease, I lived in Michigan, and my lease was up in May, end of May. So I'm like, okay, by the time that rolls around, then I'm going to be ready to make this move. And I had started to bring my things down here slowly over time. So when I get those messages, I'm like, okay, like I need to pump the brakes and figure out what the hell is going on here. I need to figure out, okay, what's really the truth. And, I spent a few days making that plan. And somewhere in the course of those days, I realized, wait a second, these messages don't check out for so many reasons. They don't look how Instagram messages really look. It doesn't really sound like him. And I even went through like months of our text messages back and forth. I'm like, this doesn't, like, it's not how he talks at all. And so I'm still, okay, like pause, think, try to stay calm enough to sort out fact from fiction. And somewhere along the way, once I realized that my truth is still aligned with everything that I personally witnessed, and I believe him and not her, I stop engaging with her as much. I don't follow up for the update. Did you get your stuff out? Are you safe? Because I was all along the only person I had to worry about my safety with was her.
She was asking you this stuff. She was trying to keep up with you.
Yeah, so there was a point where she was like in my inbox, in my head, and it is painful to go back and read those messages now to realize just how much I was being manipulated. This is my opinion, this is my take on it, but looking back on it, so much of the motivation of this feels like, well, if I can't have you, I'm going to make sure that nobody wants you. Yeah. And she knew how devastating it would be that after all of this, like, let's alienate the people closest to Charley too. And you can see that through her sending those messages to his daughter's mother, sending them to me, sending them to his mother. She wanted to take away any support system that he had. And so she absolutely was in my inbox. She was absolutely manipulating me on this false pretense of, look, I have the proof. And me being an objective person, of course, I'm going to listen. And so that objectivity did serve me well in the sense that, okay, I listened, I did the research for myself, I made my own informed opinion. And once I realized that this still doesn't add up for me, I just started to distance myself because I felt like there was a danger in staying in contact with that person, especially realizing how this narrative had been manipulated. And so that was from about mid to late March through, I want to say, like early to mid-April. I didn't ever, go straight to Stacia and be like, hey, these messages don't look real. I didn't want her to take that one way or another, that I was accusing her of being the one of fabricating them or not. I had to wait a little bit longer and find out more. Like, okay, I know that these are fake, but I don't know who the source is necessarily. I'm not here to make assumptions or throw out baseless accusations. So once I stopped engaging with her, this whole time, mind you, she had this attitude towards me and with other people where she was trying to convince everybody that I was just as much of a victim of Charley's manipulation. And then once I stopped giving her the validation or the answers that she wanted, it very quickly went from, oh, Spooky's a victim, to now all of a sudden I'm somebody who deserves to get bullied in one of her live streams. She starts calling me by my government name, which I never wanted that to be attached to this app. And at this point, it's out there. It's attached to the GoFundMe for our legal fees. And I don't care because people can find me if they really want to. But at that time, that was alarming because I didn't want that. That was an invasion of my privacy that I never consented to. Somebody who is savvy could find me if they typed in the right terms associated with my, but it
and
wasn't.
I hate to say this, but you know, I've been a content creator for 2 years, going on 3, and I like you have done a pretty good job of avoiding having my government name put out there. But rest assured, once it was, I had to hire a lawyer and get a restraining order against someone, and it turned into a whole thing, and it really fucked up my life. And so you deserve that privacy.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I mean, I just posted a video yesterday on in my stories, and it's on one of my accounts of a feminist decided to release my legal name, and then all of her friends duetted it. And it literally from the month of February through April of this year, I have screenshotted on my phone well over 100 videos with my full legal name in it.
It's
And they're all
scary.
feminists doing it, duetting and sharing this content and creating hate pages.
It's
like
so scary to
Toxic
lose
feminists.
control over your privacy like that. And for me, as somebody who at the time I had maybe 200 or 300 followers on TikTok. And this is somebody who had then 900,000. And I think that's the point that, a lot of people, closest to us or, people in maybe law enforcement or a prosecutor, like I think our police understand now. The prosecutor, not so much, but like it's been so hard to get it through to people. The scale of something like that happening to you when you're not a public figure. I certainly wasn't, and I'm still not. I still have a relatively small account. And so to deal with that, just like where do you start? All you can do is document. So I recorded that live where she says my first name. And then it's very quickly after that, the same night, as a matter of fact, that the spooky hoax starts to unfold. It's a burner account that takes videos of mine that I had previously posted on TikTok, and it's overlaid with, RIP Rachel, and the birth year is wrong, by the way. So I'm like sitting here and I'm like looking at all these little details, like they name a funeral home in Grand Rapids. They say when the date of the service is gonna be. And I'm just looking at this and I'm like, what the hell? Like it's so hard to wrap your head around. But obviously it's alarming. It's not a direct, like, I'm going to, insert violent threat. It appears to whatever like moderator algorithm that it's just a tribute video to somebody who passed away. And at that point, I wasn't posting anything publicly because I'm very much in person in the middle of this thing that's unfolding online, and I'm not in a place where I want to comment at all because I'm gathering more information. And so that comes out, and it's off of a burner account. I don't know who the source is or where this is coming from. And our outdoor cat just came inside. All kinds. There's never a dull moment over here. But I see this, and oh, good Lord. Sorry.
I got it.
You got it? Okay.
I'll go behind it.
Sorry. So, I don't immediately come out and make a statement about it. I'm trying to get more information and figure out who's responsible for this. And whoop,
I'm sorry.
Oh, hello.
Oh yeah.
So then more of these videos come out, and they become more and more alarming. One of them has this audio, and this has since been deleted, and thankfully all of them are gone now, and I'm so grateful for that, because it's strange to have videos like that just floating around about you. But one of them has an audio that says, you know, if I had a noose, I would you, if I had I like, and so on and so forth.
And see, you saying that because as you were leading up to this, I was going to say this seems coded as a threat.
Absolutely.
To me, I would take that as a threat, a direct threat, and especially that last one. But okay, another question that I have in regards to all of this happening is that I don't think I answered yet. Is Stacia a drinker or a drug user?
I can't speculate on that. I don't necessarily know what her past is with that, and that's something that, you know, once Charley is back inside, he might be able to give a little bit more insight on. I don't want to say one way or the other if, you know, I don't have the right information to be able to make that kind of claim. But either way, like, the behavior is so, like, erratic and predictable from how we perceive it, but at the same time on her end it's very calculated, and things like that. With something like that that is absolutely coded as a threat, but no matter how many times I report these videos, whether it's for harassment and bullying, you know, violent threats, false information, impersonation, it doesn't matter how I report it, these videos aren't coming down because it is very much coded. But me, knowing obviously that I'm alive and well, I'm freaking out trying to figure out, how do I deal with this and not put my safety at risk by coming forward and making a statement about this when I don't know who's doing this. And come to find out, and this is, you know, we're jumping ahead to a few months later, but I get these screenshots from a group message where Stacia and one of her very close followers, Rosie Radish, who has since deactivated her account, are essentially laughing amongst themselves about this threat. And I have the screenshots, I don't have them right in front of me. But this is coming from people who were in that group chat, but weren't necessarily comfortable with what was happening to me. But, you know, like you talked about before, I heard from the other room how people were afraid to go against Stacia if they were in that. Now, since then, have come back and provided me with this, that, yeah, it was very much a calculated thing. Like, oh, it was a hoax, hee, like, laughing about it, using all these laughing emojis. And while Stacia wasn't the one who directly created these threats, she was very much conspiring with the other person to say, like, no, it's funny because they're the ones who did something wrong. And she could have easily fixed this if she just came forward and posted a video that she's alive. And I didn't feel safe. So why would I put my safety at risk? And, you know, beyond just that, you know, these videos, they say my name, they say roughly, you know, my birth year, they say roughly my location by posting a funeral home that was less than 10 minutes from where I lived, in a city where I am not that hard to find. I'm well known in my community. All I could do was document, so I was keeping an eye on who these fake death accounts were following, and they had gone through my following list. And at that time, it might have been private, so maybe they were looking at people who commented on my videos frequently, but I see this account that's posting these hoax videos about me, and they're following all these people in my local community. People that they should have had no reason to know that I'm closely associated with. So the level of invasion of my privacy is hard to even articulate. And then I have people in the comments saying, I am going to call place that I work and give my deepest condolences on my full legal name. Now they've gone and gotten a hold of my last name. And people are giving out more and more information about me. Somebody filed a formal complaint against my work. So you want to talk about gaslighting? Not only were there these terrifying coded threats against me. But somebody filed a formal complaint with my work for helping me fake my death. So not only was it my fake death, but somehow it was my fault too. That I was somehow doing this for attention, like as if I wanted any of this. Like that makes any level of sense that I want to invite people to dig into my privacy this way. This complaint came up later when we were being recertified by like a national board, and thankfully they understood that people online are just crazy. But like, I don't think that people realize the extent to which people were willing to just put all of my information out there, to be doxxed, to receive threats for it, and then to be blamed for those threats that I received. I'm very grateful that, you know, the people that I work with and my employer were not only very understanding, but they had my back. But not everybody has that, and that's something that I very easily could have been fired for.
It's such a nefarious plot, and this is kind of why I asked about like the drugs or the alcohol, because it reminds me of stuff that like drunk college girls used to do when they really hated somebody. Is they would be like, wouldn't it be funny if we made like a Facebook group called like Rachel's hairy ass or something like that, and they would like make fun of you for it or something, you know? But it's the, if I can get in like conspiracy mode for a second, it's almost like, based on some of Stacia's other behavior, this episode of pretending to be in psychosis in the barn, like if I could have a conspiracy, it's almost like faking her own death is something that Stacia has possibly tried before, and when she had really negative repercussions from that, she was like, oh, this is something that I could do to ruin Rachel's life. Like, this is something that I could do to ruin her life.
Well, and I don't necessarily know who had this idea to make these coded threats against me, but you know, it again, I'll reiterate just for clarity that it wasn't her specifically who created or was the source of the content, but very much participated in the, you know, joking nature about it. But that person, Rosie Radish, who created those fake accounts, was in the comments of those videos from her main account, blaming him for it. And saying, wow, you know, to fake your young girlfriend's death, that's low of even you, Charlie. And she's the one who did it. So, like, there's so many levels to it where it's like, it's this invasion of privacy. I get doxxed, I get blamed for it, I get a formal complaint at my work. Somehow it's my fault, somehow it's Charlie's fault. And the people who are pushing that are the ones who did it.
And so I can even see the guilt on Charlie's face now, even though he shouldn't be feeling it. But I can see the look that he is like hating how many people have been dragged into this.
Well, and the level, because Lauren, I can tell you, you know, from what we do and where our content is associated, that we get very good at recognizing gaslighting and manipulation. And I dug well into everything in this before I ever made a video. And I can tell you that within a couple days of my video going up, Stacia was in contact with me and in my DMs. And I have had multiple back and forth with her and continued to have back and forth with her until the day that the sheriff gave an interview and said that Charlie was innocent. Then she has stopped content at that point in time. But her initial thing was that she was concerned about me and that I didn't know what I was getting involved in. And she didn't hate me and she wasn't mad at me. She wanted to make sure I had the truth and she wanted to help me. Like very much so, like gaslighting to a level that I was going, ooh, wait, maybe I am on the wrong side of this. But I'm also looking at this police report. I've already spoken to Charlie. I've spoken to Ancient Queen. I've had multiple people come to me with background stories about her at this point in time that are not necessarily associated with Charlie, but with how she does this to multiple people in her life. And she still had me questioning. And even when I'm like, well, what about the police report? And she's like, the police report doesn't say I'm guilty and that he's innocent. So then I followed back up and I sent her a message and said, after the Inquisitor situation, and said, you know, you've made these same allegations to Charlie and you could push him to do this. I'm asking you to please take down, you asked what content needs to come down. And I said, everything in association with him and his hashtags needs to come down. Her response was no, thank you. And I said, so you are, and I responded back to her and said, so it is more important for you to play the victim in this situation than it is for you to keep a man alive. And her response was telling me the story about how Charlie knew she was in psychosis. And that's where I heard the farm story from.
It's so
like it literally went right back to her victim status, and then her basically saying again that she wasn't guilty and that Charlie wasn't innocent, and that she believed the police did not investigate this properly. But at the same time, the sheriff, as you saw in that interview, clearly said that from the point that these allegations were made and brought to them by the mandated reporters, that absolutely zero contact with Stacia. Zero. She has never returned them. If she's so convinced that he is guilty and she's so convinced that he has done these things, why would she not aid the police? My instinct on this is because she realized once this got to the police from these mandated reporters, anything she says at this point in time to the police, if she lies, is further charges that can get against her. So the best thing to do was to avoid any contact with the police and hope that they don't figure out what she's done.
My problem, all of it is so performative. And yes, she's very good at manipulation. At the point that she reached my inbox, I was already very convinced that he was being wronged. And she got to me for a short period of time. I'm glad that I was able to see through it. But again, it's very painful to look back at those messages because she is so good at manipulating the narrative and playing the victim. But where my issue lies, and what I keep coming back to, is then why won't this person ever answer a direct question? Why won't this person cooperate with the police that they submitted a cyber tip to, that they got all these people around them to file reports on? If you're so convinced that they got it wrong, if you're convinced that the case was closed too early, if you're convinced that he still did this, then why aren't you working with them? If you really believe in that, then you should be eager to cooperate. There's no reason for you to be avoidant of the police.
These are all things that I said to her in our conversations, and every question that I ask her, she returned to a question to me. And I very clearly said, I'm not answering any of your questions until you answer my initial questions. And then she came back another day with more questions for me. And I responded with the same thing. I'm not answering any of your questions until you answer the initial questions that I ask you. Well, what questions were those? I'm like, they're in the very first message. Well, what questions do you mean? And she will not, she absolutely will not give any additional answers, but she will want to tell your story. And when we were talking earlier about this kind of grandiose sense of self, in one of the messages she sent me, she's like, well, I figured you might want to talk to me and hear my side of the story since your entire passion is about me. To which I responded and said, no, my passion is not about you. My passion is for men's mental health and men that are falsely accused and making sure that they stay alive in this world. My passion has nothing to do with you. It has to do with Charlie. And I made sure she knew that. But so when the police interview came out and I released it, and I released the portion of the video that said that, yes, I believe Charlie is innocent. And yes, we believe that Stacia has done this and that we're waiting for additional subpoenas to make sure that the charges stick in court. Not, as the sheriff said, it's not what you know, it's what you can prove in court. I sent her that and said, have you seen this? And what is your response? That is when she went silent. Up until that point, anytime I had messaged her, she communicated. but she has gone completely silent. And I let her know the other day that, not only was I interviewing the police, I was getting Charley's story and intended to follow it up with multiple people in her life that have stories that are very similar to this type of situation. Would she like to do an interview? And here are the terms. This will be you answering the questions. There will be no questions asked of the interviewer. And do you want to do this? If your story is so important. And I also said to her in multiple messages, if your story, if you so believe that not only Charley is guilty, but she also told a mandated reporter that Ancient Queen's husband abused her and the children, and she believes both of these agencies screwed up. If you believe that, why are you not responding to either of these agencies? Why will you not return their calls? Why will you not? She will not answer that question.
And this is the thing that I gotta stress is that as long as she has that platform, as long as she's still sitting with those followers, I don't think people really understand that she won't stop. She will forever target me until I do something about it. And this is why I cannot have that. This is why if I am now the proverbial poster child for false allegations and a point needs to be proven through my story, that it will be part of my artistic legacy. Because I can't have this. I can't have this happen to younger men or even women that have false allegations. One thing that I've been trying to drive home to other advocates is that they've watched the men's health, men's rights or whatever advocates speak on my story. And I'm well aware that a lot of advocates out there, okay, won't advocate for the same person that you guys are because of their indifferences with your advocacy community. All right. That being said, and this is for all the other advocates, if you can't see that this is a larger issue than me, if you can't see that this is an issue for the reason why women aren't heard,
Exactly.
why this subject is coming up. If you are a feminist and you have a son that is under the age of 18, they're on the internet. If you don't see this as something that will consistently get worse unless legislation is brought, unless there is something in place, because when this happened to me, not only is there no laws in place, there were no resources. My very own therapist accused me of lying about this situation and making it up. My mother went in there because I was so distraught. My mother went in and said, what did you say to him? This is because they were putting me on antipsychotic meds and I didn't want it. That's not what I need to be on, but it was making me messed up. And I'm sitting there advocating for my mental health, saying, I can't be on these. You guys you think I'm crazy, but I'm not being listened to. And then my very own therapist sat there and accused me of lying. They accused me of drug searching. And when I got up and walked out of the chair, I was met with the police. And I was given a choice to either go with the police or go check in to the emergency room. And I refused to go in the emergency room unless they drug tested me. Because again, I'm being accused of everything. And of course, the only thing they find in my system is the antipsychotics that I'm advocating to get off of. Okay, I was not heard on levels where my very own therapist, and this is documented, my mother could attest because she witnessed it. I've got the wristbands to go with it. There were no resources. My own therapist, I'm getting put on antipsychotics when, yeah, I've got mental health issues and stuff, but I'm not crazy. I'm getting told I'm crazy and it's making me I can't describe it. Nobody's listening. And then you're getting put on medication and then you're advocating this like on levels that, again, I stress this so much. I had a certain skin for this. I had a certain set of tools that helped me survive 6 hard months of this. The other guy isn't. The 16-year-old that doesn't have the life skills that I had at 40 years old, that doesn't understand how much they have to live for, that can only see that right now there is nothing. This is why I need other advocates besides the men's health advocates. And I'm out there pushing for them, and I'm trying to communicate to them so they can understand me and understand that this story is bigger than me.
So much
This
bigger.
story is way bigger than me. And I don't want to be the, again, proverbial poster child, because that's very difficult for me. But I am now putting myself out there. I am asking, I am begging for my story to be heard, and heard in a manner that you understand it is bigger than me. Because I'm not going to sit here and watch young man Inquisitor be a martyr. I'm not in a way a martyr that isn't recognized, in a way that, you know, my story wouldn't have even be heard if this young man, if his story wasn't heard first. Do you know how hard that is for me at 41 years old to sit there and understand that I would much, much rather be the story and you all be interviewing him?
I was talking about Charlie's story on my account for probably a month before the Inquisitor situation happened. And a few people, me and Maddie had talked about it a little bit. Quinn Pratt had kind of come forward and talked about it. But I can tell you, and I deleted a lot of comments, but after the Inquisitor situation came forward, I did a video on my page that very much paralleled, like, do you all realize what has happened to this young man is absolutely horrific? But we have this happening live and in real time to a man on this app, the same allegations, the same type of threats. Like, we still have this chance with him, and we need to pay it. We need to mourn the death of Inquisitor, but we also need to protect this man. And I, because of Charlie's mental health, deleted thousands of comments from that video of people saying, how dare you use this situation to advocate for this man? How dare you use this situation to lift his platform? How dare you put it? And there were comments in that comment section that said, how dare you platform a predator in the midst of the death of a young man? No. It's the same exact allegations. It's the same exact allegations being made against him. And not only are they being made against him, and not only is there evidence to disprove them, there is a police report showing he's innocent. And I was not prepared for people to be so offended by that video. But the other good side of that video is, in them being offended, it sent that video viral, which got a lot of people kind of paying attention to Charlie and raising his voice up, which was my entire point to begin with. Because when I saw his videos up, I've been screaming about this for months to be heard, to clear my name. Was that I kind of said, well, I'm going to now scream about it for months to get him heard, to hear his name. Because, and when I saw the video, and I was very early into the Inquisitor situation too, within like 24 hours, when I saw that, I was like, one of the first things I did was checked with Charlie, like, are you okay? Because he's watching his story in real time result in an end of life. And I don't think people really grasp and understand the gravity of what's going on. And the police said to me, you know, one of the things, and I will commend Charlie on this, the sheriff said, you know, Charlie really did a really good job of staying calm and advocating for himself and really educating them on the gravity of this situation and how really wide and far reaching it was and how much it was really impacting him. And he's like, and had he done that, I don't know if we would have really understood what was going on and how serious this was.
To watch advocates tell me and question me and come at me for crossing the comparisons and making people aware that the only difference in the story between me and Inquisitor is the fact that I'm alive and here to tell the story. To have people jump down my throat and not take the time to research why I am so bold in saying that. is exactly the reason why we need to pay attention. They are making the situation incredibly ironic from the words of their own mouth. It's
Well, and the
sickening.
other thing is I've seen in those comment sections, and I've seen some of the people saying that, and I've combated some people in comment sections, because if you notice, when the Inquisitor thing came out, I posted my story as that was going viral across TikTok. I instantly posted the video about the correlation to make sure that when people came at you about advocating for your story, that I could say, you do realize he's not the one that's bringing the correlation up. I'm the one that brought that to the forefront. I like, give your hate to me. Give your hate
I mean,
to me, because
anyone who's
I'm the
paying
one that put it
attention.
very viral that there is a direct correlation between these two stories. And then you echoed that sentiment like a day or two later, that there is like a direct correlation. And if people aren't seeing it, they're blind.
Exactly. Now, okay, I have a question. So where we're at in kind of the timeline is we're kind of getting to today, but there was obviously a long period of time where you're seeing your therapist, you're being attacked by your therapist, you're losing friends, you're losing family members. And I want to know, when did the break in the case come? Because obviously when you started speaking to the sheriff, you had no idea that it was Stacia who created these text messages. I want to hear about like how did you find out? What was like the euphoric feeling when you find out? Walk us through that.
Do you mean like me knowing that she's the one behind it all?
Oh, so you did know from the jump, you just
Oh,
couldn't prove.
I knew right away because I started checking my meta and I saw that she was logged into my literal Facebook accounts in Moundsville. It was so blatant. Like I said to people, how can I be in two locations logged in within an hour of each other? That, like, am I a time traveler?
Yeah.
So that was like, we'll put it as my nucleus. All right.
Yeah.
And
That's
from
when the police started kind of listening too, I'm sure.
yeah, and then from there you get like Rachel being able to physically point the indiscrepancies in the messages. All right, she makes the correlation that a fake like DM Instagram generator is what made these. And just like any app that is copying an app, or whenever you copy anything, all right, you do have to make what? It's got to be a 70% difference or whatever it is, depending on, what you're doing. You can't copy somebody's logo completely. It has to be X amount different. So there were these, subtleties that were different, that were small, but they're blatant. But when you're just looking at the fact that somebody is a predator, you're not looking at those little indiscrepancies. So, the story doesn't break essentially till I have realistically till July, because at that point, you have to understand the early stages with my police department aren't the best. It's that I have to step into the sheriff. I have to get real direct. I have to put my business shoes on with my New England attitude, and I have to start, making shit happen. And that's when things start moving forward. And when I mean moving forward, I'm every day. This is my job. This is now my job. So in reality, it's not till, I have a closed police report, because I'm still not being fed much information. They really, had to put a whole new person on this thing. There was no peace for me because, again, my own family, I still have family members that don't like, it's a nightmare for me. I have so many friends that, 6 months of me essentially silent has built a narrative where people knew the story. They hate me now. They've deleted me from their socials, people I've known my whole life, and it's out the window, gone, fugazi. This is not stopped for me. This is still going. There's people out there, I see the comment all the time, I'm glad his life isn't ruined. Rest assured, my life is ruined. It's completely fucking ruined. It's just that I'm excellent at puzzle solving. I'm great at fixing things, and I can make it look really good. You know, on the outside, it looks really good, but every day is a struggle. Every day is a certain segment of my time dedicated to fixing my life. Now, just because I am here, I am physical, and I am speaking, by no means do I want people to think that my life wasn't ruined. You know, I have to be vocal. I have to be like really, really forward in everything I do these days, because I know right now how on a tier I am. I don't have things correct with a lot of things in my personal life that I'm good, but I cannot be good very quickly. And this is why I have to charge forward. This is why I talk about balance. This is why I talk about every morning I meditate differently than other people. But I say, 50% of my mornings, at least 5 minutes are spent to like this self-deprecating hate, and then I just cry. And I got to get that out. I know I have to. I do this on purpose. I have to expel that, okay? Because this is what I have to do now. This is part of my life, but I also have animals. I've got a farm. I've got a mother. I've got a somebody I love that's next to me every day. They can't bear all, you know what I mean? I have a lot. And this situation has messed me up in a way that I'll never be right over it. I am trying to learn how to live with it in a way that I can continue.
So, as of right now, because obviously we did get that huge break in the incident report being closed, which has been, I'm sure it was a pretty big catharsis for you, because now you have this legal thing that's like, oh my God, this is so validating. But of course, it didn't solve everything, because that simply existing doesn't get out to all of the eyes that have already been corrupted and poisoned under Stacia's influence.
In the videos,
yeah. So now
it's a matter of who gets to the story first. Still, it's a matter of who gets to the story first. And this is the issue that I even have with my own family. Not a lot of them, but you're going to have people close to you that, why don't you just let it go? Just let it go. You're obsessing over, you're acting crazy.
The sheriff echoed the sentiment, and we echoed it in that interview, that every day that this content exists is every day that one individual that will go after a child predator will not see Charlie's side of the story and come into his real life, his real world, and impact his family, and how important that it is to get this prosecutor to issue what she needs so that one, they can charge her, but two, they can also take this to the app and have this content removed from a legal perspective so that it no longer exists.
You talk about life in jeopardy. I live in a rural farming community. All right? They don't mess around here. They don't wait for the police. I had my own neighbors, okay? My best friend, like I had this 80-year-old guy comes by here all the time, was my dad's friend. When my dad passed away, he continued to came here. You could say I adopted his friendship, okay? He would bring his grandkids here all the time because we got animals here, you know what I mean? All that. And look at me, I'm just a big kid, I love sports, and I got weird stuff here. Okay, it's just fun here, all right? His kids said to him, first off, he shouldn't come up here anymore. But they also said to make sure not to bring the kids here, because I'm a predator. I was in Walmart by myself in the midst of this and overhear somebody, hey, isn't that, you know, I'm not going to say the words, but, you know, I overheard him just enough for me to know, buddy, you better Amazon your food for the next 6 months or whatever till you get this fixed. Because all I need to do is be in the wrong spot with the wrong good old boys watching me in a vulnerable area. I've spent my life scrapping. I mean, look at me. I say this all the time jokingly. I grew up in the 90s. Like, I got thick skin and I can handle it. But, you know, the allegations thrown at me, I ain't going to survive that when they get a hold of me. People don't understand that.
I don't think they do. And I think that I've got two things going on. I think that this is a really good time to kind of close this out because we've gotten very far, but I have a child that will be walking in my door in about 5 minutes, and this is not a child appropriate. He's got a half day at school.
I feel like
but
I'm dabbling too. We could do this like more and stuff. It's actually really helpful, honestly, just so you know, for me to talk.
yeah, and I mean, and I would love to continue more conversations onto this emotional side of this and kind of where this impact is. I just know that one, I don't want a child walking in on this conversation. But I think that putting this out is your ability. I want to say to you, Charlie, that I know that you don't always feel it, but you have so much power and so much strength within you to be able to have withstood this and be here and tell it. And I know that you have your moments, but the other side is I don't think, and I know this was never your intention, but I don't think you realize how many men you're helping just in what you said, that you get up in the morning and you shed those tears and you put out that emotion, that emotional vulnerability to let other men know that it is okay to feel these things. It is okay to be in these moments, and it is okay to do this. That emotional vulnerability that you are showing throughout this entire situation and coming forward and putting it publicly is helping so many men that don't have the courage that you have to do this. And for that, I am honored to actually have the opportunity to have these conversations with you. So thank you.
Mean, you see that strength, you know, that expelling that emotion, that's the strength that gets me to physically do that man work because I have a farm. You see that? That's strength. That's not that, you know, I talk about this all the time. That's that balance. Lauren?
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier how you had brought this up to your husband telling my story. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So I just want to thank your husband for seeing how important this is. And, you know, I bet you he isn't kind of weird like me, but you obviously understood me and you understood and you understood the importance of this. All right. And, you know, I think it's important that it's recognized that I appreciate him. You know, I appreciate the communication you two had about this story, about me. One of the reasons I wanted to have this conversation face to face, especially with you, is so you could understand me better as a human and as a man, as a son, as a father, because I am not, you know, a perfect person, but that's the point. You know, I don't have help much and I'm trying, and what you all have done for me, I'll never forget. I'll never forget. And if I can help some other people out moving forward, even though originally it wasn't the cross I planned to bear, the skinny guy got big shoulders. I'll be all right. So thank you.
The least I can do. I do have a question for you. I got a message from someone claiming to be your mom. Was that really your mom?
I don't think too many people would claim to be my mom these days.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Laura,
I'm assuming this is real, and I'm going to respect. But you know, the internet can get weird.
you can
sometimes.
screenshot it over to Charlie or screenshot it over to me, but or I can screenshot you her account. But yes, his mom has reached out to me also, and I verified with Charlie.
You know, just to throw out too, if you could talk to her, it helps me. My family is having a very tough time understanding the weight of what has happened to me. You know, I'm not Goodtime Charley. All right, like my family, no people in my personal life know me for either playing the drums or riding and selling Harley stuff. Like that's it. So, you know, they don't understand the perils of social media. They don't understand what's happened. And they also see me, you know, on the outside, I look like, yeah, whatever I look like, but it's been tough for my family. Sometimes people reaching out to my mother, especially people with, you know, statute like yourselves. It means a great deal to me because I don't think my family understands how much I recognize that this has hurt them. But I did not want this.
Yeah.
But he did. Well, thank you all so much. Thank you, Lauren. I much appreciate you coming in. And Charlie, thank you for coming forward and really telling your story. I think that this will give a lot of people really a good understanding of who you are because they see the character you play on the screen and they don't see this person. They don't see your heart, your compassion, your kindness, your love for your family, and that you are just a genuinely good, kind human being that never, ever deserved any of this. That you truly are the victim in this situation.
The more I could tell this story, the more I sound less crazy about it. You know, the first time is being able to speak about it, I'm like, there's this excited, nervous scaredness. You know, this is probably the calmest I've talked on this story, period. So,
well, thank you all. And I'm going to go get my kiddo from the bus stop.